Okay, if I could have your attention, please. Joining us right now is head coach Joe Gibbs, owner of Joe Gibbs Racing. And Coach, certainly our thoughts and prayers are with Kyle and the family, and certainly everybody over at JGR. And I want you to know how the communities, NASCAR communities, rallying behind y'all. And obviously, we'd like to get an update from you if we could.
Yeah, I'd love to. First of all, I want to say what really impresses you at a time like this is the NASCAR family. And last night, you know, our drivers are intense competition. All the race teams are intense in competition. Yet when something like this happens, last night it was just an outpouring of spirit, prayers. We had drivers coming by last night while we were at the hospital. We had NASCAR officials, everybody coming by. And certainly I think that's one of the most impressive things about our sport, and the way we adjust to things and the way we rally behind people, particularly when you have a situation like we had last night with Kyle. I'd like to address a couple of things with him. I think I talked to him before surgery, and then we waited until after surgery. Kyle, be quite truthful, was kind of lighthearted, joking around with me, talking about wanting to get back in the car right away before surgery. Afterwards, the doctors came in, and Sam stayed there and with Kyle last night. And for us, I waited there to get a report from the doctor. He said everything went very well. And so they took the major portion of what they did yesterday was his lower right leg where the injury was. They took care of that. They're going to wait on his foot, his left foot, and it remains to be seen kind of there what the situation is, but that'll probably be taken care of. They said there's not a rush on that, and that we would probably be dealing with that in Charlotte with Dr. Anderson. So I felt like, considering everything that happened last night, I felt like that everybody banded together. Certainly, we appreciate all the prayers. And I would like to say this, you know, we've been in racing for all the Gibbs family, and JD and Coy and everybody. We've been in racing 24 years. And this, up until this point, we've had one driver miss 4 weeks. And so I think that says a lot about the safety of the sport. And I think yesterday in that wreck, the great thing was that Kyle had nothing from the knees up. Everything was fine. I think NASCAR does a great job of adjusting to things like this and making decisions. And I think this will be the same in this case. I know that the racetrack had a press conference yesterday and made some statements about that. And I think this is probably one that, again, will make some good decisions based on that. NASCAR certainly knows that the most important asset we have is our drivers. And I really applaud the fact that we have had some of the wrecks and everything that we have in our sport, and yet the safety factor has really been outstanding. And I think some of the improvements and everything we've made. And I think this will be a learning experience for everybody, and I'm sure that the tracks will be a part of that, like I said, and we'll probably learn from this, and it probably reached a point where with everything to do with the walls and everything, we'll probably have those protected. I know that there's been some decisions made today on that too. So I appreciate all that and the way NASCAR handles anything like this. They took our helmet last night. They took the Hans device, and they take all those things when we have a wreck like this and do an in-depth study of it. So we appreciate that.
We'll take a handful of questions for Coach. We'll start with Jenna, and then we'll go to Bob Pockers and then Jim Peltz. Go ahead.
Jenna Fryer, Associated Press. Joe, how long have they given you any idea on what sort of recovery Kyle's looking at? And I know that this has just happened last night, but have you guys put any thought toward what you'll do with the 18 while he's out?
Yeah, we haven't put thought into other than just today. We were thrilled to get Matt. I should have brought up the fact that Matt has, like I said, driven some of Kyle's stuff. He's a veteran guy. We felt like it was a perfect fit. We sent him over to the race shop last night. He met our person in charge of seats, and they sat in all of our cars, and he's real comfortable with Kyle's seat. Got down here, we brought him down last night, and he climbed in the car today, and he told me, he said, hey, everything's perfect. So we appreciate Matt. As far as time or length, I haven't really, I don't think I have a good understanding of that with the doctors and everything. I think we're just going to pray for him to bounce back. I can tell you this, Kyle's already telling Sam, he said, hey, I just want to get back to racing. So he has a great spirit about things like that.
Let's go to Bob and then Jim Peltz. Go ahead, Bob.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. Do you have any sense from NASCAR how many races Kyle could miss before he would be ineligible to qualify for the chase?
I really hadn't got into that other than I had a brief conversation last night about it, and I'm not even sure that I'm clarified on all the rules and what would take place. I think our focus, we had so much going on last night, was just to get everything arranged as best we could for today. So I'm sure that there'll be some conversations on that going forward.
Jim Peltz, and then over here to Claire B. Lang.
Jim Peltz of the LA Times. Coach, despite your safety record, does this accident give you any pause about Kyle running so many Xfinity races when now we have a situation where he's missing a lot of Cup races?
Yeah, I think what happens on that, I've dealt with it with the different drivers and everything, and so if you take Kyle's situation, let's think about it for a minute. He has his own race team, trucks, loves that, wants to race it. It's a big part of him and Sam and his future. So you kind of think about that, and you know that he's going to be racing some trucks. Now this year he cut down his schedule quite a bit there. And then obviously I think in Kyle's life, he has Sam and he has racing. He loves it. He gets, matter of fact, at one point there in his career, we did cut back quite a bit, and it was one of the tougher years he had, and he comes back to you. So I think those conversations are obviously ones that you have. But I felt like in his case, he just loves it so much, and felt like it was something that really makes him happy, keeps him excited about life. And so I guess you always wrestle with that. But I think that's a little bit of my feelings about our past history with him. And, racing's his life. And like I said, other than Sam, and that's what he wants to do.
Over to the far right, Coach. Claire.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Coach, do you get involved in knowing what parts of the tracks are protected by safer barriers? Do you pay attention to that? Would you even know? Some of the drivers don't. And then with Kyle, the sponsorship side of it, did you have to call the sponsor and tell them, and how did that go over? Because that may last for a while, too, being out of the car.
Yeah, the thing about that, Mars has been in the sport for 27 years, have a great relationship. They're awesome, everybody. When I talked to everybody and everybody that was here, all on board, everybody was there last night. We had Mars people at the hospital, and it's just it is a close-knit family, and they certainly are a big part of our family, and they've been a big part of NASCAR's family. And so, no, I didn't, I don't deal with the tracks or anything like that, so I haven't had any discussions along those lines. We leave that up to NASCAR.
Let's go to Dustin Long. Raise your hand, Dustin. Then we'll go to Viv. Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Joe, a couple things. When is Kyle expected to be released from the hospital and transported to Charlotte? And what kind of sense, I know you kind of talked about the foot, that they'll look at that a little bit later, but what kind of sense of additional surgeries might he be looking at with the leg and the foot down the road?
Yeah, as far as medically, I'm obviously not the medical person, but according to the doctor last night, his leg, lower part of his leg is all taken care of. And I think we'll have Dr. Anderson and that group look at the foot because they didn't feel like that was something that would be dealt with right now. So the main emphasis was on his leg. As far as going back to Charlotte, we're on standby with the plane. And so whenever he feels like he can travel, we'll get him back to Charlotte.
Let's go to Viv and then Tom Jensen. Go ahead, Viv.
Viv Bernstein, New York Times. Given Denny's and Kyle's injuries, is it a lot of drivers have already come forth and said it's time to cover every single wall where they can hit with safer barriers. Are owners going to make that call as well? Are you going to call for all walls to be covered?
I think for me, it's kind of the way I stated it. We all work together, and I think NASCAR does a great job of evaluating things. I think our safety of our cars is evident when you race cars. And so I think they do a great job of that. The comments I made were, pretty much what I think. And, I think this is, obviously the NASCAR realizes our most important thing that we deal with is our drivers. And it's a safety issue. And I think we've made great progress in the past. Like I said, to have that kind of a wreck yesterday and have him from the knees up, being in great shape, I felt great about that because I think we all have concerns of any kind of injury to our drivers.
Let's go far left with Tom, then we'll work our way back over here to Marty and maybe try to take one more. Go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Tom Jensen, Fox Sports, to your left.
Yeah.
When do you expect you'll know how long Kyle will be out? And for the duration he's out, what's the most important thing for your team to do and your crew to do to take care of the car and your sponsors and so forth?
Right. Always a concern for you, but I think what will happen there is the doctors, after they have a chance to look at his foot and everything, and we get that all squared away, I think they will give us a good opinion. Dr. Anderson deals with almost, I can't tell you how many, whether it's football or racing or anything, so I think he'll give us a good opinion of that. And the second question was?
What's your goals and what do you try to do?
Oh, yeah, as far as sponsor goes. Awesome. In conversations all last night, our Mars representatives were there at the hospital waiting all the way to the bitter end there with listening to the doctor and everything. We're just going to make the best decision we can. We felt like today was perfect with us. You say perfect, considering the situation we were in. To be able to get Matt down here last night was a big deal for us, and to have him in the car. He and Kyle get along great, and Kyle was, saying get him in here. And then I think today's been our whole focus, so we'll talk more about, how long he's going to be out, try and get an evaluation of that, and then we'll talk about, starting tomorrow, we'll talk about what's our best decision for everybody on going forward. Well, I know our emphasis is getting back as quick as we can. I know that's what Kyle will be wanting to do, and we'll have everybody working with him and for him and rehab and everything else to get him back as quick as we can in the car.
We're here to Marty Smith and finish up with Bruce. Then we need to let Coach go.
Coach, good morning. What about the human side of this for you?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's like a son almost to you. So what's
Yeah.
it like for you to watch that wreck unfold and then go to the hospital and see him?
Well, I think what happens when you get in a relationship over a period of time, which we've been with our drivers, and you develop a close relationship with him and Sam, and there is a personal side of that. And my whole life has been involved in sports, and people ask me about my children, playing sports, and I always said that, that's part of life for a lot of people, and if they weren't playing sports in high school, they were probably riding around in cars, and that's not safe either. So I think you just look at that. I think from a personal standpoint, just really care for Kyle, his whole family, mother and dad, and so I think you are a lot like family. I look at it that way. I told him last night, to be truthful, I told him before surgery that, hey, I love you. And that's the way we feel about it.
Final question, Bruce.
Bruce Martin, Race Day on Fox Sports Radio and National Speed Sport News. Moving forward, candidates in the interim role, and also you've dealt with a lot of serious injury as a football coach. How would you compare this injury to some of the ones that you had when in the NFL?
Yeah, I think any injury, particularly, one that would, affect your life and take you away from what you love to do for a period of time. I know we're going to just do everything we can to get Kyle back. And as far as the future, we'll probably start thinking about that tomorrow, get a better evaluation from the doctors and what they think on time, and then we'll be talking about, what we can do there going forward, which would be best for everyone concerned.
Coach, thank you for coming in, and all the best.
Thank y'all. I appreciate the prayers, really, the prayers and all of you. We care so much for our people and our family and the people you're so close to. And I think in sports you go through so many things. There are the highs and the lows. And certainly right now this is a low. We appreciate everybody's prayers and going forward for the family. And thank you for the way you guys always rally and look. You're a big part of our sport, you guys. So thank you.